Awesome. Well, thank you, Adele. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm thrilled about this afternoon. I know that we have some high caliber folks on the phone, and I think this is going to be a great topic, very relevant to everyone in our industry. And I just wanted to introduce the panelists. I also wanted to just special thank you to the North Carolina and South Carolina chapters for HSMAI. It's been great to have this collaboration, and we're looking forward to more collaboration moving forward. If you're not a member of HSMAI, please give that consideration. It's something I would highly encourage. I know I've really been fortunate to learn a lot and add a lot of things to my tool chest, tool belt, with the learnings and just networking and relationships built from HSMAI. So something I highly encourage. So if you have any questions, reach out to me or your respective chapter leader. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists and then turn it over. So first we have Adele Gutman, and Adele is the host of the Hospitality Reputation Marketing Podcast. It's going to help you get great reviews. Adele's been honored as one of the HSMAI Top 25 Outstanding Minds in Hospitality, Sales, and Marketing for her many award-winning achievements in reputation marketing. And after 20 years of a VP of the Library Collection Hotel, Adele's now the Hospitality Culture and Leadership Coach, and she's devoted to helping other hoteliers achieve their guest and employee satisfaction goals. And we have Sid Levy with Extended Stay America. Sid is the Vice President of Talent Management and Associate Engagement for ESA. Sid's been with them since August of 2016, and he's responsible for developing and managing the company's strategy for talent acquisition, associate engagement, and leadership development. Sid's been with Extended Stay America, and we're just thrilled to have you, Sid. We're looking forward to learning your wisdom and insight. We have Denny Edwards, with President and CEO of Visit Raleigh. Dennis has been with a 38-year veteran to the CVB industry. He's in his 15th year as President and CEO of the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau. Prior to Raleigh, he has worked with Fort Lauderdale, Houston, and Palm Springs. So Denny, thank you for joining us. And to moderate, we have Ryan Plemons. He's the Director of Group Travel Partners with IHG. Ryan's been with IHG for 5.5 years. He joined as the head of transient sales in the U.S., where he oversaw sales teams that delivered revenue from corporate, government, TMC, long-term stay, and affinity partner segments. For the last 6 months, he's had the opportunity to extend the influence of group for third parties as a director of group travel programs and partnership teams. And prior to joining IHG, he was with Avis Budget Group for 9 years in several different roles, including Regional Vice President of Sales and Mid-Market Corporate for the local car and truck segments. So with that, Ryan, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. And thank you everybody for being on. You know, one of the things I always think is so impressive is when I'm on a call, whether it's being on a panel, moderating, or just attending myself, are all the attendees that join these calls and take advantage of a great organization like HSMAI in the education content, because it's really an investment in not only in your business as it stands today, but it's an investment in your career and in yourself as you move forward. So thanks everybody for the time. I kind of echo that point for Josh. On the call today, we've got, I guess, the usual suspects for an HSMAI call. We've got a lot of hoteliers, some revenue management, sales background from the property level. We've got some GSO folks or from global sales organizations. We also had a few recruiters scheduled to be on with us, which is very timely given the topic du jour. And then I saw a few customer names in the list. I know this topic is very top of mind from customers. I get asked the question all the time about, hey, now that we're ready to book, ready to put business back in the hotels, how are your teams ready to receive it? So great content, a little bit about who I am and why I'm excited about the call. I've been with IHG Hotels and Resorts the last 6 years. I'm excited because the last time I moderated was at the Intercontinental Miami at our customer event in Miami. I think that was December of 2019. And I was a little excited and nervous. You're interviewing your bosses, so you don't want to ask the wrong question in front of like 300 people. But I think when I was thinking of doing this, I thought back to what it feels like to do that. You guys remember the feeling, right? There's customers in the audience, you got fellow hoteliers, you know, from all around. You've got partners, you might even have a couple of cocktails, maybe 3, maybe not. and then you're in a buffet line. I don't even know if you can say the word buffet anymore. It's been banned for the last 18 months, but and all that's coming back. And I'm excited to moderate this call, although I wish it was in person, because we're not going to be talking about demand generation. It seems like for the last 18 months, it's been a who's who guessing game of when will demand come back. And I had a stat from STR, the week ending June 12th, US hotel occupancy reached 66%. Now that's 25 million rooms in the US. And then that 25 million number was up 1.1 million just week over week. So the demand issue, the great news for us is we've really battled through as a collective, as an industry, come together, and that's in the rearview mirror, hopefully. But like all good businesses, the next challenge is on the forefront, and that's really where retaining and hiring hospitality talent is all over the news. Every industry publication, I saw ADP talking about it this morning on LinkedIn, the SCIFT conference last week. It was the primary topic of conversation. So really glad to have this panel of guests to speak through it with us. This is a town hall, so we do encourage some open conversation. Now I know sometimes I join these like during the lunch break or checking up on emails, but if you're doing that, that's cool. Just feel free to type in a message. We'll get those answered for you. And I wanted to start with a little bit of a statistic from Dale Ross from Hotel Effectiveness. So this data, it's a market labor analysis really focused on the city of Charlotte. And I'm going to ask you guys to respond via chat. Just type in an answer here in just a second. I think you know how to do that by now, but if not, maybe you've been meeting in person, which is good. And this analysis really looks at full service and select service labor hours per occupied room. So in May of 2020, a full service hotel in the Queen City, that's where I went to school at UNC Charlotte, so shout out 49ers, averaged 5.37 labor hours per occupied room. So the question to everyone is, and you can chat the answer, practice our town hall style, is April 2021, what was the average hour per occupied room of labor that a full service hotel in Charlotte would expend for that room? The high was 5.37, just as a reminder. 0.50 hours from Julie. It's fair. It's 2.5 from Giselle. It's a nice range there, getting closer. So I won't make everybody answer, but I did want to kind of show how easy it is to participate. The answer is 1.81. And while our friends in select service are a little bit better at 1.1, they're 1.10 right now, but obviously takes a lot less labor to run a select service. That number is down significantly from 2020 and even more when you look back to 2019. So with that being said, I will start out with the first question. Denny, I think we're coming your way on this. So I wanted you to give the audience your view on retaining and hiring hospitality talent from the lens of being the CEO of Visit Raleigh.
Thank you, Ryan, and good afternoon, everyone. I'll touch on the hiring process first. Talking to a lot of our partners and all, it seems like a lot of people use Indeed and some of the same platforms, but what I have found, kind of stand out from the crowd is, I would say, try to develop very strong relationships with universities, colleges, and even community colleges that have hospitality or culinary schools. I know Bob O'Halloran is actually on the phone from ECU. They've got an incredible hospitality school, and it's amazing. They do job fairs, they have internships available. So to really develop those relationships on the ground floor with all the prospects coming out, whether they're graduates or even those looking for internships, I think it's a great opportunity for anyone looking for jobs. And they'll also post any openings that you all may have as well. We also work very closely with two organizations here in Raleigh and North Carolina. One is called NC Works, And I'm sure South Carolina's got the same program. It's usually a Department of Commerce, but they handle all the state employment issues to unemployment issues to people looking for jobs. And then there is also a regional organization called Capital Area Workforce Development. They have relationships and they know any candidate that is looking for a job, particularly those that may be currently on the unemployment ranks. They have access to all those individuals. And so they are always looking for any level of job that you all may have. They most certainly have possible candidates, and they'll help link you up with those candidates. They'll also, because I know many of you will have your own job fairs. Anytime you may have your own job fair, they'll also help promote your own individual job fairs as well. So definitely try to develop some relationships with them. I would also say, participate in any job fair. Pre-COVID, we were doing in-person job fairs. We would usually get around 800 candidates per job fair, which is incredible. We did try a virtual job fair. It was supposed to happen last week. That did not go so well. So I am not a big advocate of virtual job fairs, but certainly personal in-person ones do work. And another comment I've heard really now for the last couple of years from NC Works and Capital Area Workforce, and I think this is a big pot of talent that many people are afraid to go down, and that is working with them on identifying people that may have criminal records, but want that second chance, want to get back into the workforce. I'm not talking about mass murders, but I am talking about people that might have made a mistake somewhere along their lives, and they have generally a very difficult time getting back into the workforce. And there are a number of those candidates that would love to get in the hospitality business. And again, if you're interested in those types of candidates, I would highly encourage you to go to Capital Area Workforce, NC Works, and they will put you in touch and get some of these people back to work. From a retaining standpoint, I would just say, during the hiring process, I think it's really important to express to them the career path or paths that may be available within your organization or just in the hospitality alone. And then also educate and give them educational opportunities is a big thing anymore. People want to continue to learn. And if they know that there is an ability to do that within your own company, I think that is extremely helpful as well. I've also heard that some of our hotels are doing what I consider, I guess, pay on demand. That is paying them the same day that they work. I know some hotels aren't able to do that, but that seems to be an intriguing way to obtain some of the hourly employees. And then, you all have heard the things about signing bonuses and gym memberships and all. But those are just some of the few nuggets I'll throw out on that topic, Ryan.
No, that's really good, Denny. It's funny, that article I mentioned on LinkedIn this morning mentioned having the capability to even pay someone on that first day, right? And the infrastructure you had to have in place on property to be able to do that. So those are all good call outs. Sid, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask you the same question as VP of Talent Acquisition and Associate Engagement. I imagine you've had a few of these conversations. I think you told me 530 hotels. So I would assume this has been top of mind. So can you talk to us a little bit about it from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, Dennis covered a lot of the things that we look at as well. One of the things from a retainment perspective, I encouraged our leaders to let me engage a company to do an associate opinion survey during the pandemic. I said, I need to invest in figuring out what we can do when we come out of this pandemic, we'll be ready. And we have about 7,500 employees, and we were able to get a little under 35 to 40% of them to respond. And based on that, the top three things that came out of that was, I like it here, but I wish we could do more things around development. I wish we could do more things around reward and recognition. I also wish that, we had more presence in diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And coming out of that, we basically checked the boxes on all three of those. I mean, for example, in the DEI space, we are creating a DEI initiative and council, and we have specific KPIs assigned to each functional leader. We also made Juneteenth a company-wide holiday. Our head of HR sent a really nice note to the company talking about that. And you'd be surprised how many frontline employees responded back to him saying, thank you, this means a lot. This is why I work for a company like ESA, things like that. During the pandemic, we also did a voting initiative encouraging people to vote. We called it Stay Counted. And that was another instance where we got a lot of positive feedback from employees that really thanked us for encouraging them to help and to vote. From a reward and recognition perspective, we recently just launched a new tool using OC Tanner to do a reward and recognition program. And we did not have a central way for this to happen before this launch. And so we're getting a lot of positive feedback from that. And on the growth and development side, we've launched several new modules for different people in the organization, from top 9 box, people that are assigned to be promoted, close to being promoted, from a variety of different levels of the organization. Because of the virtual world we live in, it's been a lot easier for us to pull this off. Because as you said, Brian, we have over 530 hotels that we own in about 30 states. So we really have been leveraging that availability there. On the recruiting side, right, I mean, everyone's faced with the same challenges. I mean, one of the things that Dennis mentioned about partnering with hospitality organizations, what we found on our end, because we're not full service, we are extended stay property, so there's opportunities, but not as big opportunities and not as many positions that you would find at a full service hotel. So what we found is that you don't really have to have hospitality experience to come and work for us. In fact, we've encouraged our managers to open up their candidate pools to consider retail and quick service, particularly Family Dollar, Dollar General, Hobby Lobby. We've seen a lot of people that have been able to cross over and be able to come in either as assistant manager or general manager. We've tried a lot of the things that Dennis mentioned as well, with sign-on bonus, referral bonuses, and all that. We do have a programmatic job ad spend with Indeed. One of the things that has probably been the most successful for us is partnering with community organizations. Dennis mentioned some of the things that he was talking about with NC Works, but we've also created a list for all of our major cities. I had our intern created a list that had all the contact names for Goodwill, United Way, Urban League, all the top organizations. And I've encouraged the district managers for each one of our major markets to get a relationship with them and to make sure they knew about our opening positions. And we get a lot of positive feedback from that. And the military is the last thing I'll mention. We, because of our locations, happen to be in close proximity with some large bases like Fayetteville, a lot of things in Georgia that are close to bases. We partner with some of the military organizations to make sure that they're posting our positions as well. And we actually do a big celebration of our veterans every year, and we talk about that. And we on the sales and revenue side, we also partner with them to give them discounted rooms. So it's a full 360 partnership with the military. So that kind of summarizes everything there, Ryan. I'm sorry if I went long.
No, that's okay. Just a quick follow-up. Those organizations you mentioned, you look to recruit from, Dollar General, a couple of the retailers. Are they doing anything that you've seen that has kind of given you other ideas? Because I think it's important for us to know we're not just competing with other hotels, right, for talent. There's been a big exodus from the industry of talent, and there's we need to be aware that other organizations, and especially in retail and in the restaurant industry side of hospitality, are also recruiting heavily.
Yeah, one thing I'll tell you right now that we've noticed with like Tire Kingdom or Tire, I forget the like the AutoZone place for tires. I forget the name of the company. And there's several others that are doing national hiring days. And what that means is in theory, we're going to hire people day of when they come in for interviews in our locations, but you got to qualify and go and apply and all that. But at National Hiring Day, we're working to pick a day where we could have some national campaign around it, most likely social and digital, encouraging people to go to our site on a particular day during a particular time for on-the-spot interview and hiring. We've noticed a couple of people trying that. We talked about doing it before, but now I think we're in a good place to try it again. And we're going to have collateral in each hotel to make sure they know what to expect and how to pull it off. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also think you touched on the diversity inclusion aspect, and Adele knows this is close to my heart here recently. And I really think there's an opportunity to better serve underprivileged communities and bring them into the hospitality space. Not just at the on the catering team, but really offer them a career path. And it's something that we've been kind of looking into ourselves. So Adele, you've heard the gentleman's responses here. You have a very varied background, to use varied twice in the same sentence, and a lot of different perspectives. So how do you see this topic playing out within your purview?
Well, to give everybody a little bit of background, until March 13th of last year, I was the Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Revenue for the Library Hotel Collection, with hotels in New York, Canada, and in Europe. And you'd never really expect that someone who was focused on sales, marketing, and revenue would end up with my primary focus. Not that I wasn't doing every other detail that other people in those disciplines would do, but my primary focus was guest satisfaction. I knew from very early days that if our hotels showed up on the front of TripAdvisor with tons and tons of 5-star reviews, my marketing was done. I mean, the phones would be ringing off the hook, the website would be flying, everybody would take the room for whatever price we put it at. Much our ROI, our ADR, our occupancy, everything was flying. And what I didn't really appreciate until we really got into it, what was a tremendous profitability exercise turned out to be the best thing that ever happened for the employees. The employee experience flew because the only way, I mean, I cannot sit in the executive office and make our hotels the number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 hotels in a row on TripAdvisor out of hundreds in New York City. I can't do that. The team does that. And for them to have the energy to make that happen, we have to constantly say to them, what is it that you need to make people happy? What is it that what problems are you observing in your everyday interactions with the guests that are friction points? And let's talk about it as a team. Let's create a culture of caring, collaboration, and continuous improvement. And guess what's happening when you do that? They're learning the whole time. They're learning decision-making skills. We go into a conversation about a problem somebody had and how to correct it. And they're so proud that even, the vice president of the company or the general manager or the director of sales and marketing is asking them, what do you think that we need to do to solve this problem? And guess what? They know. You ask your housekeepers what guests need, what are some problems that they're having, what should we be communicating better? A lot of times it's not a matter of spending more money on anything. It's just a matter of communicating better and giving the team the skills, the tools, the training, and the freedom from fear that this is our corporate culture, this is our vision, these are our goals. Your job is to make people happy. You have some tasks that you need to do along that, but that's not your job. everybody shares one job and we work together as a team to make people happy. So they have freedom I know how we make decisions because I saw that they value the guest experience. We want those guests to come back. We don't want to spend more money on attracting new customers while at the same time we're losing the customers that have already walked in our door. So, and then another thing that happens is the pride that they feel. Wow, I'm learning new skills. I know how to make people happy. I'm talented. What more can I learn? And they're so hungry to learn. And we're in such great communication with the team every day, um, sharing our vision and our mission and sharing that appreciation for the team. It's absolutely amazing. So when the hotels all closed for because of COVID in New York City, the crisis was, very, very especially damaging over there. I said, I'm going to take this way of thinking and I'm going to help other hoteliers enjoy this experience too, because it's such a great way of working. When the guests are constantly complimenting your team, how does that make them feel? Well, compare that to what's happening today, where the guests are yelling at the team because we're not providing the level of service that we had promised. And they think that we don't care in the executive office. If if we're not, surely we must know what's happening, and we're just leaving it up to them. That's we work together in partnership, and when we have alignment, it's a completely different thing. I wanted to reflect back on some things that Denny and Sid said. Uh, I have a podcast called the Hospitality Reputation Marketing Podcast, get great reviews, and I get to talk to a lot of awesome people. And Craig Poole, who is the GM of the DoubleTree in Reading, Pennsylvania, he has a perfect 5 bubble score on TripAdvisor, even though the DoubleTree brand has probably about 78% guest satisfaction. He's got in the upper 90s guest satisfaction. And he did it, guess what? He hired ex-cons. He asked a couple of questions to make sure that their mind and their heart were in the right place, and he gave them a chance. And they appreciate that. He just wanted to see that he had somebody that had a lot of hope, that was ready to work, that really wanted to do the right thing, that wanted to make us happy, that was excited about the mission. And he gave them a chance, and they went from being, one of the worst rated to, in a very struggling city, to being one of the highest rated hotels in the entire state of Pennsylvania. I spoke to Lonnie Wolf, who says he didn't lose a single housekeeper because even though he has a 3-star hotel, he has 5 bubble reviews because he expects the best from them, but he gives them his whole heart. How are your kids doing? How's everything at home? Thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to make you barbecue today. What can I do to help you be more successful? It's the sales and marketing and the employee experience and culture. It's not 2 peas in a pod. It's one thing.
Yeah, that's very good. So Adele, with that view in mind, what mistakes have you seen the industry make as far as bringing on talent into various organizations you've worked for?
I actually asked that question in a clubhouse meeting with Jeremy Nichols from, I think it's called Gecko Hospitality in Florida. And he said, one, you're taking too long to make a decision. There's a perfectly good person in front of you who wants the job, say they want the job. Why are you taking, time to think about it, and time, including too many people in the decision, and, worried about, well, is this really, could I get anybody better? If you have somebody in front of you, that seems like a happy person that wants to do the right thing, grab that person because someone else will. Number two, he says that we are asking too much. Do you really need a master's degree to be a social media manager? No, you don't. A lot of these things are things that if you just have someone to show that person how to do a good job, give them the direction and give them the freedom to have somebody that they can bounce ideas off of and make sure everything's going in the right direction. It's unbelievable how much intelligence our teams actually have when we ask them to contribute at their full level. People love to learn on the job. So say yes faster and don't make the requirements ridiculous. He says that we're also, when we put out an ad, we're just listing, tasks. How about talking about your culture and mission and your values and how you really live by those standards and actually do live by those standards? Dr. Peter Ritchie, who is the director of hospitality at FAU, Florida Atlantic University, says he knows from dealing with over 80,000 hospitality professionals or wish to be professionals who have taken certification courses from that university. He hears their feedback. He's gotten millions of comments from them. And he can say that there are some companies who are living their values, but there are a lot of companies who say one thing, but what you think in the executive office, what the marketing people say, and what actually is living on the lobby level in day-to-day life is not in alignment. Gandhi said that happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And we can really have much more financially successful and happy, harmonious lives if we just get everybody together on the same page and live by those values. It is the only profit-worthy decision to make.
Well, what's interesting, Adele, too, sometimes somebody who lacks experience is easier to train and onboard than somebody who does. So Sid, I want to ask you a similar question with an observation that I had when coming from car rental business to hospitality. I had a really large team to begin with, and a lot of our sales folks had been on property, come up the ranks, come into global sales organization, which was phenomenal. However, we all tended to have the same background. So there was very little talent from outside. And since that time, we've hired a few folks with very different background. And to see the melding of the two together has been very beneficial for our teams, our customers, our hotels. So do you have anything to add kind of on that topic of things you've noticed as far as hiring within the industry?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry for that. One of the things we really focused on was in creating new realistic impressions of the roles. So there's new videos for every one of our core positions in a hotel. As I mentioned before, there's a difference between extended stays, hotel structure, and a full service hotel structure. So we wanted to make sure we identified that and select videos for housekeeper, guest service, night laundry, general manager, and I'm missing one, guest service representative. I think I may have said that twice. But anyway, once you notice, when you look at those videos, it's similar to what Adele was saying. There's customer or guest support in all of those roles. There's guest interaction in all those roles. There's doing what's right. There's if you see something, pick it up in all those roles. There's and in some certain cases, you're backfilling if someone calls in sick, or if all of a sudden there's your property's near an airport and there's a snowstorm and a bunch of flights are canceled. So all of a sudden you've got 20 or 30 new rooms you got to get ready for. All hands on deck. So we make sure people understand that you're a part of a team and you have each other's back, and you also know that your core role is this, and we give them a realistic impression of what it is. We were finding that our 90-day turnover was fairly high, and then we started unpacking it, and a lot of the results from the exit interviews was, it's not what I expected, or it's more this, more that, and that's when we took a step back, and we had to make sure our hiring managers had the tools to give a realistic impression of the role, not to scare people away, but to really make sure that they're asking the right questions in an interview to get to that. So that's what we did.
Oh, well, that's good. And that's favorable for everybody's time investment, right? So you get right to the point of the core responsibilities. Denny, I'm going to go a little bit off the pattern here for this next question. And I'm interested, in your tenure within travel and hospitality. Is there any, questions you ask candidates that really helps qualify them as far as being a perfect fit for the travel and hospitality business?
We always make sure I mean, of course, it depends on the role, but there's 3 questions that we always ask in an interview, no matter what the position is. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. And one question is, what is your definition of customer service? To me, I think, depending on how that's answered, I think it's going to tell us a lot if they understand our business and the importance of it. The other question we always ask is, what is your passion? I think that is always a question that gives us a good answer and a little bit of insight on that person's personality. And the final question we always ask is, give me a single sentence that I could share with my CEO or our board that's about you. And so I think, if you have to define yourself in one sentence, I think too, that really helps define the person. So those are 3 questions, Ryan, that we always ask. And then obviously there's a gamut of other questions as well. But Adele talked about the culture, and we always make sure too that in an interview process, maybe not necessarily the first interview, but if we narrowed it down to maybe 3 candidates, we always make sure that we have the majority of that department involved in at least one interview, so they too can kind of sense, is the team chemistry there? Because we all have to work together. And if the team doesn't feel that chemistry, then they're likely not going to get hired as well.
There you go. We a few tips there. If Denny posts anything there in Raleigh, you'll know those 3 questions in advance. Make sure you're prepared. Adele, your perspective on that, any interview questions? This is kind of the fun part, I think, is really assessing, folks for roles. And like you said, Denny, the team component, will they fit with the group so that they can deliver that customer service? Any questions specific to you, Adele?
Well, I can tell you that if I was starting an interview with someone, the first thing I would be doing is doing the talking, because I want to be sharing with them first what it matters to us, what we live for. And for us, it was always, if they didn't know right from the get-go at the hiring process that our number one goal was to make sure that every single guest walked out ready to give us a 5-star review and tell every one of their friends and family members about what a uniquely wonderful experience we offered. So we're not going to stop at doing anything to make sure that that guest is happy. And I talk to them a little bit about the culture, and I look at their face. And if they're deadpan, but if their eyes light up with excitement, wow, this is the kind of company I want to work for. This is what I'm looking for. I want to be in an environment where we value all the opinions and ideas, and every person, every housekeeper, every bellman, everyone can be creatively expressed because their contribution is so valued. If they're lighting up and you can see it in their eyes about making people happy being our sole focus, I know that is very likely the right person for me. And then I will just let them talk about themselves and their experience. And if they're sparkling sunshine on me during the interview, I have a pretty good idea they will do so, because that's what comes naturally to them. Looking for happy people who are wired for people pleasing. You know, Disney said hire happy people. Craig Poole, who I just mentioned, said hire happy people. By the way, he has 2 questions that he asked his team because he wasn't looking for people with experience. As I said, he hired people from all walks of life that needed a chance. He said, "What do you think of Reading, Pennsylvania? And what is your hope for Reading, Pennsylvania?" And if in answering that, he got the impression that that was a person who cared, who wanted to be the positive light and a positive change in his community, then he knew that that was a good candidate for them. That's really, I think the most important thing is just finding people who want to learn, want to make people happy, and want to do the right thing. If I find a happy people pleaser who's ready to work, I can start with that, and they will learn on the job.
That's something good to start with. You can teach the skill. It's funny for folks that I interview, depending on the position, I always like to take them out of the element, right? Anybody can kind of prep, especially sales folks, for a 1-hour sales pitch, right? But if you take them to coffee or lunch and see how they interact with the wait staff or the person serving them coffee, I always think that's a good, maybe I was, maybe that's my Southern upbringing, but the way they treat that other person that's serving them, I think is really important culturally. So Sid, given that right now we are leaning into some different organizations, sort of some of those Dennis mentioned, to really, we have a deficit in staffing and we're trying to recruit people in. Does the hiring process change from your perspective or for your managers if an organization you've been networking to send you talent sends you a person? So in other words, do you change the process because you've developed kind of a pipeline of folks from a group that has talent that you often kind of will accept job applicants from?
I think in that scenario, if we know or already have a connection point, I would make sure that the candidates are flagged in the ATS. So that would make sure at least they get a second and third look from the hiring manager, which is the general manager in our hotels. And that's typically how it works. And they would, do what they could to make sure, like they gave a extra credit, I guess, to one of those candidates from those community partnerships. So yeah, that does happen.
I like that. Same interview process, but just a flag to make sure you've done the proper vetting. So I'm going to skip here to the last one. We're getting a little tight on time. In general, how can we've said some of this, but maybe the number one thing from your perspective that the industry can do to make hospitality the career path for the talent that are out there that are available right now. What would you say? Adele, you want to take this one first?
Well, sadly, I mean, you can't treat them like a pair of hands. These are human beings. I had a great talk similarly with Peter Ritchie and with the general manager of the London and Beverly Hills. And he said, you can't get fantastic performance and get people to fall in love with your hotel if they don't fall in love with your employees, and your employees are not going to make them fall in love with the hotel if they don't feel that you love them, if you're not doing your best for them and caring about them as a human being. How do you think that they're going to care about your guests on that same level? So treat everybody as an individual. I remember Peter Ritchie saying that the one that had interviewed or had comments from surveys from more than 80,000 hospitality people. They want different things. This one, an incentive isn't going to change the way they feel. It might be a temporary little boost to call attention to a particular activity that you want them to do, but it's not about it's not about having, you know, ping pong tables. It's not about having a frozen yogurt machine in the staff lounge. It's about listening when they're having a problem and trying to find solutions. It's about making them feel like a very valued member of the team. And if you're talking about kindness and compassion every morning, noon, and night on all the pre-shift huddles, on all of your communications to the team, hooray, job well done. You look at all these positive comments we've gotten, look at the success you've had. You've managed to get through this really great weekend because everybody helped each other out. You're not just serving your guests, but you're also serving hospitality to the people in the other departments. When someone needs help, we all go to that area and try to help out. And that's how you have a winning team. Making them feel how valued they are. That is really what's going to make the difference, even more than money. But money matters when you're not making enough money that you have to work 2 jobs. So they have to make enough money to have some relaxation time. They have to be able to, you know, if you have employees working 12 hours days, that is not a sustainable solution. And you will pay the price when they leave. You have to care about them as human beings.
That's good. Good answer. So Denny, same question to you. What can the hospitality industry do to make hospitality the career pathing selection for some of these folks that are getting signing bonuses and all kinds of different things thrown their direction?
I think a lot of it begins in education. You know, many people, when they think about our industry, they think about somebody flipping hamburgers or maybe working behind the front desk at a hotel. That's their only path to our industry. So I think a lot of it is just education. I think Louisiana just did a terrific job on creating a number of short videos that the entire state is pushing out. They're quick 1-2 minute videos and basically testimonials. They're talking to a guy that started as a dishwasher and now he's the head chef, or a general manager that started as a bellman and how he or she worked their way up into that position. I think we collectively need to have a better organized campaign talking about the different career paths and how you can start maybe at a minimum wage type of a position, but you can quickly move up into our industry and with high paying jobs. And then I also think about it's somewhat grassroots education as well. There's a lot of high schools now that have pros start or some kind of a hospitality academy within their high schools. We need to begin reaching out to those high school students, as well as students going into a university that they haven't selected their major yet. They just happen to pick a particular university. We need to reach those individuals very quickly as soon as they get on campus, as well as their parents, and let them know about all the opportunities that we have. So to me, it has to be collectively done though, whether it's the U.S. Travel Association on a national level or our individual restaurant lodging associations on a statewide level. But I think the message needs to be consistent, and all of us could play a part in that.
Yeah, that's great. My friends, sorry, a little feedback there. My friends at the Myrtle Beach Regional Economic Development Council have a program for high schoolers that may not want to go to college for hospitality in particular. And I think that's varying fields, but I think that's a good plug-in that we haven't heard yet. So Sid, last question to you. Just around that industry as a whole and picking hospitality as a career. What are your thoughts on that?
It's similar to what Denny and Dell's already said. I mean, we have majority of our open jobs are non-exempt frontline. I mean, our corporate jobs is one thing. So we have partnered with University of South Carolina Hospitality School. We've had a direct access to manager and training jobs where we went to the school and I presented on campus and interviewed on campus and hired on the spot. And that worked fairly well. One thing that we noticed is that it's a little bit different between coming out of college working in one of our hotels versus working in the corporate office. So that we had more luck and retention in the corporate office. If you're at one of the hotels, you're already out on the front line and there's a lot coming at you. There's a lot of expectations. We're lean and mean. And it was just too hard for a new graduate to jump into that. Maybe they'll come back in the future. But that's what we found with the colleges. Testimonials is very, very important because a lot of our executive leaders started, as you said, Denny, on the front line. I mean, our head of operations started as a guest service representative 25 years ago. The last thing I've mentioned on how to make the industry as a whole more attractive is particularly for us, because like I said, we own over 500 hotels. If you could literally tell your manager a request, I want to move to San Francisco and I want to take a job at one of our hotels there, and we will relocate you there. If you're a great, employee and you're already doing a great job, or Florida, New York, whatever. And that is something I work really hard to make sure our managers know that, and to know the company will pay for reimbursement for that because I run the reimbursement program. But what ends up happening is our managers don't want to lose good people, so they don't say anything. So that's the thing I work through. And in terms of frontline, we focused on making sure it's attractive career paths focused on flexibility in terms of the hours, in terms of the locations, like I already mentioned. So those are the three areas I would say, Ryan.
Oh, that's great.
Ryan, can I just add one quick story?
Sure, go ahead, jump in.
Thank you. Chip Rogers, who's the president of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, he said that we as hoteliers don't do a good enough job thinking about the cost of replacing staff members. If we thought with the cost of our turnover rate, we would change our ways. And he said that one GM listened to his housekeepers. What is it that's bothering you? And they said, we didn't sign up for this. Because of COVID, everybody's trashing their rooms. They're not getting served during the stay, and they're getting a lot of ordered in food, and they're leaving so much trash at the end of it. When we come in, this isn't what we signed up for. I mean, I already had a hard job before, but this is 10 times as much. And so what he did was he acted on that feedback, and he went to the local high school and he hired a bunch of kids to go through the rooms and get all the trash out of the rooms, so that and maybe have some strong people move some furniture in advance. So when the ladies from the housekeeping department went to clean the rooms, it was what they were used to expecting. It was the job that they had signed up for, and they were happy to do it.
What I like about that story is it's different, right? Everything's different, and there are no rules, and how we did stuff yesterday is not the same as today. Technology is rapidly changing, everybody's day to day. And I think looking at things like that to make somebody very valued, like a housekeeper, make them know that you're hearing them is really important. So I'd started taking some notes on kind of some takeaways that I was going to restate here as we close out, but I really had also picked a quote, and I think the quote kind of sums it up, and it's from someone who spent some time in hospitality. You probably heard of him, I guess I should say Sir Richard Branson. And the quote is, many of you have heard this, but this is one to keep in mind. I think this is something that won't change. I don't believe, and that's what we've heard is, I'm convinced that companies should put staff first, customers second, and shareholders third, because ultimately that's the best interest of the customer and the shareholder. And if you most public companies have the shareholder first, right? But this quote's in the reverse order, and I really think it's right. But and we've heard that today. Adele had some good examples when she started exactly along that line. If you hire the right people, they will take care of your customers, and shareholders kind of take care of themselves. So thank you everybody for your time. As Adele said, there's a upcoming cybersecurity roundtable, I think, coming up next month. So be on the lookout for that. And if you have any questions about membership, we would love to answer those for you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.